Satoru is a 37-year-old man from Tokyo who is single and has a stable job. His friend from work named Tamura has invited him out so he could show off his fiancée to him. Just after they had met on the streets, a random assailant with a knife charges towards Tamura and his fiancée. In order to protect them, Satoru steps in between them, causing him to get stabbed instead. The assailant flees the scene and Satoru quickly realizes that the wound he received is very much fatal. While Tamura is calling for help, Satoru keeps hearing a strange voice in his mind which is analyzing his thoughts and forming abilities according to his current desires. With his final words, Satoru wishes the best for Tamura and his soon-to-be wife and asks him to destroy his hard drive to prevent anyone from finding out what kind of things are on it. As the world fades around him, Satoru is left to his own thoughts and it takes him a while to realize he is in fact in a new body. After some testing, he figures out that he died and got reincarnated as a slime. While thinking to himself, he hears the same voice in his mind as before. The voice introduces itself as his unique skill, the Great Sage, who is able to quickly analyze and process information for him in addition to the large amount of knowledge it already has on its own. The Great Sage explains to Satoru how his new body works and how to use his abilities. Learning that he can pretty much devour and store anything inside of his slime body, Satoru begins absorbing everything interesting he comes across inside of the cave he is in. While doing so, he ends up running into a dragon who happened to be sealed inside of the same cave. The dragon teaches him how to properly see as a slime by sensing magicules around himself. Once Satoru can properly see, the dragon introduces himself as Veldora, the storm dragon. They have a chat and Veldora explains how he has been sealed here for 300 years. Satoru feels sorry for him since he knows how it feels to be alone. He proposes being friends with Veldora, which the dragon bashfully accepts. Satoru decides to find a way and help Veldora break out of the unlimited imprisonment spell that is keeping him sealed, so he asks the Great Sage for any ideas. With the knowledge of the Great Sage, Satoru suggests to Veldora a way to free him. The way being Veldora getting devoured by Satoru's unique predator skill so the Great Sage could analyze the seal from within. Before Satoru devours him, Veldora grants him the name Rimuru, as he was just a slime without a name in this world, and tells him to come up with a family name they could share. Rimuru decides on the name Tempest, and thus they become Rimuru and Veldora Tempest. Then he proceeds to devour Veldora, beginning the analysis of the unlimited imprisonment. A great tremor rocked the world as the storm dragon, Veldora, disappeared. In the kingdom of Blumen, the minister Baron Variard asks of the guildmaster Fuse to investigate this matter in order to maintain the security of the kingdom. Fuse decides to send a team of adventurers to look into it. Meanwhile, weeks have passed and Rimuru kept exploring the massive cave system, devouring any hostile monsters he came across and acquiring their skills by using Predator. Finally, he manages to find the exit of the cave, but it is blocked by a giant gate. Just as he is trying to figure out a way past it, the gate opens and a small adventuring party consisting of 3 humans enters. Rimuru remains out of sight, and once they move further into the cave, he takes his chance and exits, finding himself in the great forest of Jura. He does not get far before running into a band of goblins who sensed his overwhelming presence and have come to ask him for a favor. After being brought to their village, he meets the village elder who explains the situation to him. Apparently their god disappeared about a month ago, and since then lots of violent monsters have been showing up and harassing them. This time frame perfectly fits with the moment Rimuru devoured Veldora, so he feels responsible for the situation. The village elder tells him about the direwolves who keep attacking them, and recently they have killed their strongest warrior, leaving the village in peril, offering the loyalty of the goblins to Rimuru if he protects them from the direwolves. While Rimuru is pondering the situation, the direwolves howl, signaling their approaching attack. The goblins start panicking, but Rimuru calms them down, saying how in place of Veldora, he will be granting them their wish. Realizing that the village has no real defenses left, Rimuru first heals the injured goblins before organizing them to set up a fence around the village. Once the night falls, the direwolves attack, but thanks to the set-up defenses and Rimuru, they are unable to reach the goblins. The pack leader of the direwolves attacks Rimuru, but is easily killed by him. He hopes to disperse the remaining direwolves by devouring their pack leader and using his form and skill to intimidate them, but instead of running, the rest of the pack submits to him. Rimuru commands both the goblins and the direwolves to work together from here on out in order to build up their village and make it safe. He quickly realizes that it is impractical for the goblins to not have names, so he grants the name Rigard to the goblin elder and Rigard of his son. While he is at it, he decides to give names to all of the goblins in the village too. Once he is done with the goblins, Rimuru begins naming the direwolves too, starting with the son of the pack leader he killed, naming him Ranga. Once he grants him the name, his body shuts down as the great sage warns him that his magicule reserves are below minimal levels, forcing him to fall asleep for 3 days. Rimuru learns that giving names to monsters is very taxing as it costs a lot of magicules to do so. 3 days later, Rimuru awakens. He is shocked by the transformation the goblins and direwolves went through in the meanwhile. Rigord explains that it is all thanks to the names he has given them, as being granted a name causes the monster to evolve. Noticing that all of the direwolves evolved too, even though he only named Ranga, Rimuru asks him how that happened. Ranga tells him that all of the direwolves are linked as a pack, and that thanks to Rimuru, they have evolved into Tempest Wolves. Rimuru holds a speech, setting up the rules for the village and disclosing his plans for future development. Soon he sees that the goblins do not possess the skills required to build houses or sew clothes. Rigord advises him that there are dwarves from Dworgen who are good at these sorts of things, and they have previously traded with them too. Learning that, Rimuru takes Ranga and a small squad of goblins and wolves with him to make contact with Dworgen. One of the goblins to join him on the journey is Gobto, who has already traded in Dworgen before, so Rimuru took him as a guide. And so they arrive at Dworgen. Not wanting to cause trouble, Rimuru leaves everyone but Gobto behind and heads for the city gates. At the gates there is a very long waiting queue, and while waiting to get entry, they are harassed by some adventurers. The adventurers pick a fight, and Rimuru decides to teach them a lesson by transforming into a Tempest Wolf and releasing his menacing roar. The roar does not only take care of the bad adventurers, but also everyone else waiting in the line. Guards from the city show up and throw Rimuru and Gobta into the dungeon. While Gobta decides to pass time by sleeping, Rimuru explains himself to the captain of the guards, Kaido. While they are talking, another guard calls for the captain, telling him that a dangerous monster has been encountered in the mines, badly injuring some people. Seeing this as a chance, Rimuru offers a barrel of healing potions he had brought for trading, telling Kaido to use it. Kaido decides to accept Rimuru's gift, and once he returns, he brings 3 dwarves along to thank Rimuru, as his potions have saved them. After setting him free, Kaido decides to repay Rimuru by introducing him to a skilled blacksmith, Kaijin, who is also his older brother. At Kaijin's weapon shop, Rimuru runs into the 3 dwarves that his potion saved before, and it turns out they all work here. Rimuru explains that he needs skilled artisans at his village, but Kaijin says he is too busy with work right now. Apparently, he was given an impossible delivery order to fulfill by the minister, Vesta, but he will still try his best to do it. Rimuru realizes that the swords he is supposed to smith are made from the same material as the stuff he was devouring back in the cave. And so he analyzes the one sword that Kaijin had already made, utilizing the great sage to reproduce copies of it by using the materials he already has in his body, easily creating the entire delivery of swords at once. With the delivery completed, Kaijin and the 3 brothers are able to help Rimuru, but first they go celebrate their success in a bar with sexy elven hostesses. During the party, one of the elven girls reads Rimuru's future, taking a peek of the person he is destined to be with. A pretty girl that appears to be Japanese is shown in the crystal ball. Before they can talk more about the girl, Vesta shows up and picks a fight. This makes Kaijin very angry, and he proceeds to knock Vesta out, asking Rimuru if he would accept him to come to his village and help out. Rimuru is happy to accept, but before they can leave, they are arrested for assaulting the minister and brought before the king for their trial. It quickly becomes apparent that Vesta had manipulated the trial, making everything appear to be Kaijin's fault. Thanks to that, Kaijin, Miad, Dord, and Garm are sentenced to forced labor in the mines for many years, but before the verdict is finalized, the king, Gazel, speaks up. He asks Kaijin if he is willing to return into his personal service as he had been in the past, but Kaijin refuses, telling him that he has found a new master to whom he had already sworn his oath to. Gazel accepts his answer, changing the verdict into exile for all of them. Once they are led out of the courtroom, Gazel speaks to Vesta, telling him how thanks to his actions he had to sever ties to the slime who gave them a healing potion more potent than anything they can create. Because of that, and Vesta's inability to be honest, Gazel discharges Vesta from his service as the minister. Kaijin says his farewells to his younger brother before leaving the city with Miad, Dord, and Garm. Gazel commands one of his spies, telling them to keep an eye on Rimuru, as that slime is a true monster, reminding him of Veldora himself. In the kingdom of Bluemund, the 3 adventurers, Iren, Cavil, and Guido, have returned from their mission and are reporting their findings to Fuse, who immediately sends them back on another mission. Fuse is worried about the changes that might happen to the monsters in the Great Forest of Jura due to Veldora's disappearance, so he wants them to note anything out of the order. Just as they are complaining about having to head out on another mission so soon, they are approached by a masked girl named Shizu who would like to accompany them to the forest. Iren gladly accepts the new addition to their little team. In Rimura's village, the 4 dwarves that came with him are putting their artisan skills to good use, teaching the goblins and helping them develop the village. Rimura's reputation has spread through the forest, and many other goblins from other goblin villages flocked to his. He took them all in and even named all of them, which put him to sleep once again. Sometime later, he is alerted by Rigor that they have spotted some suspicious beings in the forest. Upon investigating, Rimuru runs into the 4 adventurers from Bluemund who are being chased by huge ant monsters. Shizu fights them and kills all of them but one that stands right behind her and is ready to kill her. But then all of a sudden, a black boss level magic starts to form in the sky. Hey, thank you for staying all the way till the end. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. It takes only a second, but it means everything to us. Have a great day and see you in the next video.